The Dark Falcon was the last set that I needed to grab a hold of for the 2024 LEGO Star Wars collection, or at least the last set that I wanted to grab. Set number 75389 is the Dark Falcon from Rebuild the Galaxy, and it has 6 absolutely fantastic minifigures, and we'll get onto those as the video goes on. A hefty instruction manual with a thankfully rather small sticker sheet, 17 numbered bags, and an extra bag full of the cockpit. And as is the norm these days, I'm going to put the minifigures on the right hand side and the build time lapsed on the left hand side, starting with Jedi Vader, who looks fantastic. Brilliant printing all around, and probably my favourite in the lineup. Beach Luke is next with a dual molded headpiece and that blue milk carton. Great back printing, looks fantastic. Bounty Hunter C-3PO is quite possibly the least exciting of the 6, with just the black arm and the red Sith eyes, but still a pretty cool figure and not one you would see normally. Speaking of which, it's Darth Devastator or Darth Dev, and this has also got a dual molded headpiece. Great torso print, great back of torso print underneath his black cloth cape as well. And you've got Darth Ray, who also has a cape. I think they've done a pretty good job with this. This is the kind of thing that people have tried to mock up since the Rise of Skywalker. My only sort of pitfall with this is the fact that the lightsaber is just a binoculars piece with 2 red sabers. Speaking of 2 red sabers, dual-ended lightsaber, the infamous Darth Jar Jar. This looks fantastic. It could be the pick out of the bunch. Great back printing, despite the fact that you wouldn't be able to see it over his headpiece. Let's have a look at all 6 of them together. Now, I seem to have lined them up inadvertently or otherwise in order of favourite from left to right, with Jedi Vader and Darth Jar Jar being 2 of my absolute favourite pickouts, and Bounty Hunter C-3PO and Darth Dev not quite as favourable. But what I will say is, I think all 6 are fantastic. I'm being slightly nitpicky with this assessment. I actually think this is possibly the best lineup of all exclusive minifigures that we have seen in LEGO Star Wars, by which, of course, I mean we're unlikely to ever see any of these figures ever again in sets in the future. These are very much one-off figures made for this set and for this show, with the possible exception of Darth Dev should we get a season 2, and I really hope that we do. It's very likely that we will see Darth Dev or Dev once again. So the figures are basically a 10 out of 10 from me. I can't really nitpick anything that I would look to improve on these particular figures. Maybe a sticker on the blue milk for Luke. Let's move on to the build, and I have experience of building a playscale Millennium Falcon before, back in 2015 with that grey Force Awakens Millennium Falcon, and that was a really fun build at the time, one of my sort of most memorable and most fun builds, and not something I obviously documented. I didn't have a channel all the way back then, but I did really enjoy it, and this brought me right back to that moment. An absolutely beautiful build, not too competitive, very fun to do, and as you can see from the exterior, it looks absolutely fantastic. It's very striking, very eye-catching, and minimal use of stickers on the exterior, which is always something that I look for if you've watched my videos for long enough now. Those pieces on the back, the circular pieces, they are stickers, and they're very few of the stickers that you will be able to see. Just gorgeous, and if the outside looks fantastic, then the inside is just as striking and just as interesting. Lots of little knickknacks in there, so let's open it up and have a little look around. The top bit opens almost like the Solo Millennium Falcon, where it opens out to the front and there's no gap, and you will be able to see from that angle, and probably better from this one, that you can see a throne there that is of course meant to be Dev's, and all of these sort of flaps come out. There's about 4 of them, and they're all held in with a very small pin, and it does hold them in. It's not too small. It's also detail wise not too obnoxious. When you look at it from the side, you wouldn't know it's being held in with that pin. You can also see in this area some beds, and then you've got the throne I spoke about there, where you're supposed to put Dev, but I have opted for Darth Jar Jar. As you move around the build, you'll be able to see various areas that are accurate to rebuild the galaxy, and as you move towards the back of the ship, you can see an area that is clearly meant for Jar Jar rather than anybody else, and that's because it's the Gungan Booba that he is holding throughout the minifigure, and there you can see him. That's probably the area where he will be kept. He won't be kept in there, however, because like with any of my minifigures, I will be putting them into a glass case, particularly these ones, because these are fantastic. You can see another sticker piece there, and this is the area that I really enjoy, which is almost like a gaming area. There's a couple of seats there, and what was almost like a computer screen or a TV, and this is really cool. You've got that games console controller as well. It felt very appropriate to put Beach Luke in there. He needs a buddy as well, so I put Bounty Hunter C-3PO, and it reminds me very much of the new Asgard set, possibly because of that remote control that Korg has, but it does remind me of that particular scene, and that was a really cool set when it came out. You've got the cockpit, of course, not a particularly great interior on the cockpit. It's particularly sort of challenging to get anybody in there. Rey does fit on there, but she is very much sitting on the floor in this particular shot. It looks pretty good when you've got the cockpit on. Admittedly, it looks quite cool there. She looks quite dark and dangerous, but not a great interior for the cockpit. But you can't win them all, as they say. And of course, as I demonstrated, the opening of the Falcon, it does sort of close down in exactly the same way. You've got the missile shooters on the very front, and you can press down in those circular areas to get the missiles to fire. And I've already talked about how fantastic I think the exterior looks, and one thing I did want to show you before the end of the video was the thrusters or the engines on the very back of the Falcon. Of course, synonymously blue in my mind's eye in the grey Falcon. They're of course red on the Dark Falcon. I think they've done a great job with this. Is of course accurate to rebuild the galaxy. You've got 4 stands under the Falcon to keep it upright. I love this set. It's a 10 out of 10 from me, and that's not something that I often say in these types of videos. It is one of the best sets of 2024. It might well be the best. I will leave that up for debate. I'm certainly not going to do a first to worst or a top 10 of the year. I did say at the end of December I wouldn't be doing those types of videos. But I do think it is right up there. It's certainly one of my favourites that I have ever built. Thank you so much for watching. If you have watched until this point, we've still got a ton of LEGO Star Wars stuff coming up over the next couple of months, so make sure you're following or subscribed so you don't miss any LEGO Star Wars goodness coming in the next couple of months.